Hello, welcome to Cinemondo.
Kathy and Mark talking. We're going to review a film that we both watched recently called The First Omen, which was released earlier this year, directed by Arkasha Stevenson, starring Nell Tiger, Ralph Ineson, Bill Nighy, Sônia Braga, and it is the prequel to the classic Omen series. So this takes place like in late 60s, 1970.
Yeah.
So this is before the first movie where Gregory Peck comes in and gets Damien as his son.
Well, because we never really saw much about where Damien came from. Like they basically adopted him. And so we're like, they kind of insinuated it came from the church or whatever, but we never saw the background leading up to his birth. So this is a necessary film to have. And also it's very hard to talk to people about because I'm asking, hey, did you guys see The First Omen? Yeah, that movie was great. It was very no, not The First Omen, the movie. So it gets very confusing, but at the same time, it's an accurate title.
It's accurate, and it's also it really captures the vibe of those films. And that's hard, 50 years later to sort of get the vibe. First, it really feels like a film that was set in 1970. It kind of works to me. Like the setting in and around Rome and Italy, and Nell Tiger plays Margaret, who is a nun, or is going to be whatever that term is, to become a full nun. So she's over there working at a orphanage, just trying to put her time in before she gets, what's the word, communion or whatever it is that you turn. There's a term for it, but officially a nun. And Bill Nighy plays this cardinal who just like raised her, and he's just very sort of likable, sweet, holy man who sort of takes her in and is so happy to see her. And there's a Father Brennan played by Ralph Ineson, who has this really deep, dark, crazy voice. And he saw something early in the movie, it's like a prologue, and he's there to warn her, hey, something's up and you need to listen to me. But he comes across as a crazy guy.
He does come across as a crazy guy because, when things are urgent and scary and they don't make sense, you look like you're crazy.
Right.
But I overall, like, I love Nell Tiger Free. Is it Nell Tiger Free?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nell Tiger Free is really, she has a great sort of innocence that belies something deeper. And she did that in The Servant, and she's doing that here. And, it's kind of to me, almost like an evolution of The Servant, where she kind of played a little, you weren't sure what her deal was, a little religious, a little culty, and she brings that to it. Like, you want to believe her. Like, you're always rooting for her. Even when things are getting dicey and you're like, I don't know if she's really on the level, you still believe in her. And that's why this was such an important character to pull off, because you have to be kind of disarmed by her for the film. Because you're kind of hurt. You're the way in with her. You're going to this church, which I think they did a great job of setting up. It's kind of dark. It's very cliquey. The nuns are very like closed off and insular, and the priests are kind of this patriarchy that no one crosses. And you go into it. So she comes into this like, oh, my new place, and finds out that everyone's kind of like, stay away from me, stay away from them, stay. So like, who do I believe? Who am I supposed to talk to? Who am I supposed to be part of the community? So I like that sort of like, she's kind of untethered inside this religious institution, and all hell breaks loose.
Well, there's one student there. Her name is Carlita Skiana.
They keep her locked up for some reason.
Yeah, and she seems like a total, she's just like by herself, and they don't want Margaret, Nell Tiger Free's character, to engage with her.
Right.
So she's like, well, that's not fair. I mean, she's,
we should be talking to her, helping her, right?
Right. But early on in the film, there's another nun there who has a spectacular, it almost harks back to the first death in the original Omen.
Oh, yes. It was very much an homage, definitely.
Yes. And she's on a pet, she's in front of the whole, she's up 5 stories, on a balcony, and there's all the kids are playing below, and she douses herself with gasoline.
Takes it one step further.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's hanging, but also burning up.
On fire, jumps off a building in front of a bunch of, oh my God.
Yeah. Horrific. So obviously that's shocking and stunning. And she's, she's from the United States, and she just doesn't know what to believe, but she has to believe the other nuns and the sister Sylvia, who's played by Sônia Braga, who's sort of like the elder leader of the nuns.
Yeah. Leader of the nuns.
Yeah, I don't know the terminology, unfortunately.
I know. Mother Superior. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Mother Superior.
I don't know what it is. We're not Catholic, obviously.
Right. So, but there it delves into what really is going on here, and that's what's really interesting. And this is where we get into some spoilers. Like, what is really happening here?
Yes,
what
exactly. And she's an American. Another thing that makes her like the outsider. She's an American woman going to work in Rome in a church. She's kind of sent there to work, and she starts uncovering this weird conspiracy. Now, we're already kind of off center because one of the characters seems like they uncovered a conspiracy and they seem like they're crazy. And then is she just buying what this crazy person is saying, or is there a conspiracy? Technically, we know there is because we know there's an omen, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
we know. So it's sort of predestined for us to know that everything terrible happening in this church is for sure real. So in a way, you feel bad that it takes the girl so long to figure it out. But let's talk about that opening scene. First, I was like caught off guard because, they go in and I'm like, okay, here we go. The stuffy church scenes and then everything's really dark and in stone and everyone's talking like everything's very important. And, you have those two great actors and, the guy from Game of Thrones.
Charles Dance.
Charles Dance. So you have that and, they're walking out, but you see it coming. It's like it's like the scene with the mirror, the piece of glass. You see, I love the little sneaky homages to the Omen that we catch where they're lifting this big stained glass over this entrance. Well, they're out there just talking underneath it.
They work the stained glass. They're like, get 5 stories up or whatever. And you just know what's going to happen.
Because we've seen the Omen. And we know what happened. So I'm like, oh my God. And so I love that scene because then you see kind of jiggling. They're kind of, whoa, you can tell there's trouble. But they're very much into their discussion because something's going on here. We know. And then, of course, the thing goes crashing down. And you're like, oh my God. And I feel like I was kind of cringing because there's all this glass spraying everywhere. But then it seems okay. You're like, okay, nobody got their head cut off. So you're like, shoo, that was just, they're just playing with us now. So you see the guy go, are you okay, Father? He goes, I'm fine. But he's kind of staggering a little. And I'm looking for like, is blood going to start pouring down his neck? And nothing really happens. And I'm like, weird. Until the reveal, which I was, okay, this movie's fucking great.
He turns around to his back to him, and his head is just like this not gash. I wouldn't just half of it is just gone.
And half, you see his brain and everything. Just a clean cut, not even bleeding. He's like, I'm fine. I'm good. He's kind of staggering. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And to me, that sets up the movie because they didn't wait to show the guy like from the Omen getting his head cut off. Like, they didn't save their big spectacular. They put it right at the beginning. Yeah, you were like, okay, what? So then at that point, I was very because you go into these things. I've seen it a million times. I've seen the stuffy church. I've seen the everyone says. But now I was like, whoa, okay, you got my attention. I woke up. This is not going to be the usual movie, and it wasn't. Like I remember there's a few birthing scenes which I don't love because it's so bad. But there's a scene extra graphic, like shockingly graphic of like, right at the girl, right between her legs, which I heard was actually like a 30-second scene that was fully graphic showing it and the thing kind of coming right out. And they were like, you can't show that. You're not sure. So you could tell they cut it. They moved it to the side a little bit, but you could kind of tell what you were seeing. But they're like, this is not a porn film, so you can't show that. You gotta. So they had to cut it. But to me, that was sort of like the whole film is built around this idea of something coming out of this woman. And so and they were arguing like, this is our film. It's about birth. It's about giving life to this terrible thing. We need to show it. I understand their thinking, but it was icky enough just seeing it the way they did it.
I think it proved. I think it got the point across, and it was. I just thought the movie was really well directed and showed everything it needed to show. Yeah. And also just the reasoning behind why the church, which I thought was just really smart. And maybe I didn't get it from the first movie, but it's like they want this, baby with the 3 6s to be born and live and grow up because they know that religion is losing its steam among the world. Yes. But what can bring religion back? What could bring the faithful back? A real demon that actually causes death and destruction.
That's right.
Proof. So what a cool
cynical and gross.
It was just, and Bill Nighy, who was this guy who you just love, all of a sudden you realize, okay, he's sort of the head of this.
Part of it, the patriarchy.
Yeah, and he's the one that brought
course.
Margaret over, and so it just was really smart. I thought it was a
really
smart film. It's one of those things where like I
Really
want
good.
a movie to be smarter than me, and it was.
Exactly. It was, and I was kind of surprised by a lot of the twists and turns, and I liked the depth that they went to show us and make us understand the politics and the religion behind it and the true belief we're doing the right thing even though it's the wrong thing, and that they kept trying and it wasn't working. So they're like risking all these women's lives by trying to impregnate them with demon seed, and then it's not working, and then the women die and have these terrible births that are terrible, and then
Yeah.
just trying to get someone who can handle giving birth to the Antichrist, which apparently is not easy.
Not
I can't
easy,
imagine it would be.
and like and Carlita, who was what we mentioned earlier, she has the 3 6s, but it's on the roof of her mouth.
That was really a cool, shocking scene. Did not expect that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and they finally got Damien, and at the end of the film, it kind of comes the last
I
shot.
love the last shot. Oh my God. It was like,
you see a picture of the ambassador who is Gregory Peck, and like, oh, we have the perfect baby for him. His name is Damien. And then that takes you right into the first movie.
And I love it. They pull out and you see Washington, you see all the political
Yeah.
icons, and you're like, oh shit. Like,
Yeah.
so that was amazing. I almost wish that it wasn't quite as close to it because I'd like to see another film before he gets there. But they gave birth. But I also like that the baby's born, but it's a cute baby. It's cute, and they don't want it to be hurt. And she thought it was gonna be a demon. That's what I love too. You're expecting this demon to come out, even though we know that Damien's a cute child, like the cutest child you've ever seen.
Right.
But it was still kind of like, oh yeah, it would have to pass. It has to be this charismatic leader. It can't be a demon. It has to look like a human.
It has to be
it kind of occurs to you like, oh, all the other women are giving birth to demons, but we can't have demons. So
right. We have to have a cute little boy who is going to grow up and be a leader. And so it's a smart film, and it gives me hope for these young filmmakers are coming in and taking. We've been talking. There's Alien is coming out soon, but this is a movie that's a classic sort of a horror film, and it's done right 50 years later by a new group of filmmakers.
A female director killing it, because technically this should be a female perspective because it's all about giving birth and being the mother to the Antichrist, which should be a female point of view.
I think she made it as good as she, not just because she's a female, she's a good director, but also that angle is something that a male director might not necessarily bring to it as well. So,
I mean, I felt the overtone of like the female eye on this, because you had a little bit of the hierarchy in the church, even like we're seeing, it's all about a woman giving birth, but it's all about the men, being in charge and keeping up with things and being the ones to decide who's the woman's going to be the next sacrifice. Like they get to decide a woman's fate technically by doing this. And they want a male. It has to be a male.
It has to be a male.
And that was the other problem. It's like, they're like, what is it? Oh, it's female. Get rid of it. Not going to work. It's like, why wouldn't it work? Why can't a woman be the Antichrist? I don't know.
Well, one other part of the movie is when she does give birth, she has twins, and there's the other one is a female, and they say just burn them together, So you go, oh my God, this is horrific. But I also like that, the male characters, basically, the cardinal and the father, the crazy father, they are side characters. I mean, they're not the focal point of this movie by any stretch. It's her character, and the nuns are really, and the young girl Carlita are really the main characters, and the people that sort of save it, in one way. So
and there's another. Let's talk about a set piece here. This was just a great scene overall, where she goes out. Remember, she has her big night out. The girl's like, you have to get out. You don't always want to be together. So she gives her all these sexy clothes. She's like, I don't know about this. This is weird. Yeah. And so they go out and she meets this guy, and they're all like dancing, and she starts going into a trance. She's starting to get seduced by all of the, heathen.
She took some drugs too. Her friend
took drugs. Yeah, her friend gave her drugs. She's dancing. She's getting into trance music. She meets this guy who actually seems like an okay guy. She didn't get with one who looked like he was going to be a date rapist or something. So
right.
He's actually being pretty cool with her. Yeah. And, they're all dancing and everything. And then she wakes up and she's like, what happened? Where am I? What? And you're wondering, like, did she get roofied or something? Like, that wasn't really a thing then. And then I love later, she sees him on the street and she runs up to him going, hey, and he's terrified of her. He goes, no, get away from me, and you're like, what happened? That scene, shocking. Like when he oh my god.
Yeah.
So she's trying to get to him, and he's running away. Like, dudes, don't talk to me. I gotta get out of here, please. And then he gets hit by a car, which I did not see coming. Which I should have seen
neither
coming.
did I. Yeah, but he says something right before.
Yes,
and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it was a clue to what's going on. It was a really important line that she figured, she remembered later, and was like, oh, it's sort of. So it's a smart film. It's one of those things where you harken back to it, and
there's a lot of clues in that scene because first of all, he's hit by the car, but it smashes him against the wall, so he's trapped. And he's like, I'm trapped, and she runs over there. I gotta help you. She tries to help him, so she pulls him out from behind the car. Superhuman strength, apparently. So she's holding him like, you'll be okay. And then everyone looks at her screaming. You find out no body on the unload. There are a few things happening there. Is that she has kind of superhuman strength that she didn't know she had. Like she pulled this guy out and she's holding him up. Like, so there are a few clues kind of being spooled out. If you're really paying attention, you realize like there's no way she could have done that. I mean, no way. But it was really disgustingly graphic, gross, and shocking. Like you get kind of lulled by like, oh, it's a movie about the Omen. It's a but just like the original Omen, the gore scenes, the set pieces are shocking. Like, wow. So huge points this movie. I thought they really pulled it off. They had the gravitas. They had great actors. It really felt like when we first saw the first Omen, where you felt like this is real, this is freaking happening. Like it felt very deep and like prophetic, even if you didn't believe in all that. When they would show the verses in the Bible and they show how it's happening, you're like, oh shit, this movie had that same feel. We're like, this is important and deep, and they brought a lot to it, and I was on board the whole way.
Yeah.
If
you haven't watched it or didn't think I don't need to watch this, watch it. It's really good, and
so good.
And I'm excited to see what she does next. The director, Arkasha, I think that's how I pronounce it.
She did like this a couple episodes of Brand New Cherry Flavor. She did a few episodes of Legion. That series. She's done a lot of TV.
But this is her first feature.
This looks like a passion project, really. I mean, she lucked into. I don't know how she got it. I don't know the politics, but she got an Omen film, which is huge. That they put a woman in charge of an Omen film is great, and because it's an origin story, it was just the perfect director to get for this. So. Right. I'm definitely excited about her next move.
Me too.
See what happens there.
Too. So really check it out, The First Omen, and it's just one of those. It works. All I can say is it works. Okay, everybody.
Rave review. Yep.
Yeah. Bye. See you soon. Bye.